Steve Pechenik, and this is Steve Talks. Hello, I'm Dr. Pechenik. This week we saw two major forces come to play in the Middle East. One was the possibility of war, which I've talked about. It's on the video and on my blogs. The more important one for me is the possibility of peace. Trump has been trying to set the scenario for the peace between the Abbas of the Palestinian National Council and Bibi, the head of Israel. The problem with that isn't so much Trump's approach as it is with the two individuals that are involved. And what do I mean? Bibi has been around a long time. He's had a very distinguished career. He's had a career with conflicts, and he has had a career with a lot of corruption. And in my humble opinion, it's time for Bibi to resign or to leave if the Israeli judiciary indicts him for the crimes of felony, perjury, corruption. I can say the same thing for Mr. Abbas, although I don't know him as well. I do know where he comes from. I do know the terrorist background. And the truth of the matter is that as head of the former PLO and Hamas, which, by the way, was created by the Israelis when I was there in the 1980s on the West Bank, I think it's time for Abbas to really think about resigning as well. Now, why do I say that? The two major individuals who really made peace in the Middle East were two former terrorists, Menachem Begin and Anwar Sadat. And Jimmy Carter, who was not a well-known president at that time, had the idea that we should have a multilateral approach to it. He had a very effective Secretary of State with whom I worked with, Cyrus Vance, an incredibly elegant, articulate, and very bright individual. At the same time, he had a very effective director of the CIA, Admiral Stanfield Turner, who brought me in and brought in other psychiatrists who worked for the CIA. In particular, without revealing any major secrets, there was a gentleman whom I had known and worked with named Jerry Post, who had done extremely accurate psychological profiles of the major actors in the Camp David Accord. So the CIA and I and Cyrus Vance and Jimmy Carter and Menachem Begin Sadat, we all kind of got together, both in Israel and Egypt, and an agreement was ironed out. Most of that agreement is really the result of Jimmy Carter, who really put his political capital on the line and was spiritually dedicated to the notion that we must have peace between Israel and Egypt. The fact that that peace has lasted for 50 years is really a testimony to President Carter, to Menachem Begin, and to Anwar Sadat. As many of you know, Anwar Sadat unfortunately was killed by the very people he led in the Islamic Brotherhood. Now we have a chance to have Abbas create possibility of peace, but I believe that he needs a new leader, and from my perspective, that new leader, unfortunately, is in Israeli prison. His name is Barghouti. I don't know him well. I know a little bit about his family that's related in the United States, and they are distinguished individuals. The Israelis will say that Barghouti is a terrorist. That's correct, but so are the Israelis. Remember what I said, Israel created Hamas. At the same time, I believe there's a gentleman whom I do not know named Gideon Sa'ar, who has a Sephardic element to his background. And the reason I think that's important is for the past 50 to 60 years in Israel, we Jews have been led by Ashkenazi Jews, not people who really were born in the Middle East or grew up in the Middle East. What we need in Israel now is someone who is sensitive culturally, linguistically, and otherwise to the norms of the Arabic culture or the Bukharian culture in Central Asia. That's why I picked Gideon Sa'ar. Let me remind you of two famous quotes. One is in Macbeth, Shakespeare's Macbeth, where he says, if the will is there for peace, so is the way. And let me quote Donald Trump, who said, nothing is impossible if you can imagine it and you can then create it. I would like you to remind that last sentence, Mr. President, because I think you could initiate another peace accord between Abbas and Bibi. Thank you very much. Hi, this is Dr. Steve Pachenik, and this is Steve Talks.